These are the exact strategies that helped my students to get job offers from Meta, Tesla, Google, Microsoft, Walmart, and other big tech companies. Now, I know that you have applied to 500 plus jobs and internship, but you are completely ghosted. I know that you may have fixed your resume 50 other times and grinding lead code every single night, but yet there is not a single callback. And I know that hurts because without a plan, you miss a big pay like Meta or Google and even a chance to stay in United States. Good news is I've got a plan. For the last 6 years, I have been a hiring manager and I've watched from the other side of the table and built a job hunting accelerator program where my student used it and landed offers from Meta, Tesla, and other big tech companies. But in the next few minutes, I will share those exact steps with you. So stick with me and you will learn how to get interview calls, how to crack them, and finally, how to get that dream job role that you've been wanting it for so long. If you haven't met before, my name is Yudi, and on this channel, we talk about everything related to studying abroad in United States, building a successful career here, and immigration. So if you're into that, consider subscribing because it's absolutely free. It doesn't cost you anything. The very first thing that you want to understand is that to win the race for getting a job offer from these big tech companies is that imagine like you need to climb two big mountains in this race, and on the mountains there are two big flags that you need to capture these flags. First mountain is actually getting the interview call, which is where recruiters will say like, hey, when is a good time to schedule the first round of interview? And the second mountain is cracking that interview call, where perhaps you might be doing live coding, whiteboard coding, behavior interviews, team matching round, and finally getting that dream offer. But the problem with the engineers is that they go all in climbing in second mountain, but without realizing that they actually need to go back and climb the mountain one and capture flag one. Without that, they're not going to win the race. So now that you understand the full map, let me show you step by step how to climb both mountains 1 and 2 and capture both the flags. Mountain 1, which is getting the interview call. You know, getting an interview call is a lot harder than cracking it. Trust me. I mean, you can hear this from all of the students, even my students told me that we just need the opportunity to get the interview call. So let's make that opportunity come to you. Let's make recruiters find you. Here are the 3 main things that you need to do. Step number 1 is your landing page, which is your resume, your sales page. The only way for you to impress recruiter when you apply for a job is your resume. When you apply online, there's nothing else they have other than your resume. So you want to make sure that your resume is like a sales and a marketing page that converts recruiter from viewing it to actually interviewing it. Here are the few things that you need to do in your resume immediately, but I'll be making detailed videos about this topic, so you can subscribe, or you can also go and check out my newsletter where I actually go a lot more in depth about building resumes and guides like this. So link will be in the description, check it out. But here's what you need to do. First is you want to show the impact that you have created as an engineer or as a student. What most engineers do is that they talk about what are the tasks that they completed in their job. I don't care as a hiring manager. Like, I want to see what have you done so far. I want to see, because of the task that you did, what was the impact that you created? For example, you need to ask the question, so what? So what happened because of the work you did? Did you reduce manual hours? Did you increase revenue? Did you increase the performance of the website? Did you cut the production cost? Did you cut the customer support hours? And that is what recruiters and hiring managers are looking for. They also want to see that you are a leader and owner. How do you show that? Let's say you led the project in the team. Let's say you took the initiative to drive result. You are a self-learner. All of this basically is pointing to the fact that you are going to make the life easy for the hiring manager. You're going to maximize their ROI by hiring you, and they'll miss out if they don't hire you. Step 2 is LinkedIn. Now, what happens is once your recruiter is like impressed with your resume, they're going to be like, oh, okay, this guy is good or girl is good. Let's look at the LinkedIn to make sure that you're legit and there's no sus about you. You know, look at me using that Gen Z language. So you want to reaffirm the recruiters or hiring managers when they land on your LinkedIn that your resume and LinkedIn are saying the cohesive story. Headline is extremely important. It needs to directly communicate your LinkedIn profile within 5 to 10 seconds. They should be able to tell who you are, what do you care about, and what are you most interested in. If it's not software engineer, then you have already missed the opportunity. So make sure your profile picture is good, your banner is good. Actually, you know what? I recently filmed a video on LinkedIn and where I reviewed my own student's LinkedIn profile. I'll put the link in the description. Go and check it out. Now, step 3 is the most important step, which is building your referral engine. You know, a warm introduction from an insider of the company is going to get you interview call a lot faster than applying 100 to 200 jobs online without any referral. But the question is, how do you build your referral engine? Here are a few things that you can do. Number 1 is personal DMs. Yes, send cold DMs and LinkedIn connection requests with a note saying that, hey, I loved your journey about Tesla charging API. Quick question, what tech stack do you use? Or perhaps like, hey, I see that you are working as a HR analyst and I'm really interested in that field. I would be grateful if you can spend like 10 minutes to help me understand how did you get into this and a little bit more about this field. You don't need to ask for referral. You are just reaching out of curiosity, praise them, genuine, compliment them, read their content and appreciate for their content. Number 2 is hackathons. Again, there are a bunch of hackathons for software engineers. Like there are so many of them. In fact, one of our student, he actually went to the hackathon and got interview calls. Yes, I'm not lying. Another candidate mentioned about going to tech conferences. He went to tech conferences and got interview calls over there. University info sessions. There are many companies coming. Go to those info sessions and start connecting with the people who are coming, who are actually from industry. College clubs, run a coding workshop, competition, meet with the seniors who have already interned at Meta or Tesla or whichever company you want to work for. So every single day, you need to spend some dedicated time for this referral. It's a long game. I'm not saying that today, if you start tomorrow, you're going to start getting referrals. No, if you start today, maybe a year from now, you're going to have strong insider influence who can help you get connected to the real people who are making the hiring decision. Here are the 2 bonus things that you can do, which is not required, but it will help you stand out. Number 1 is creating portfolio. Now, you have LinkedIn, you have resume, but it will be interesting when they see your resume and if you have a link to your portfolio to your website where they can go and showcase, where you can showcase all of the projects and all of the skills in one spot. This is going to be a wow factor for you. Like, oh wow, like he actually has these projects and these are live. I can click into it. I can go to his projects and I can log in and whatever. So that is an interesting topic. I'm going to talk more about it at the end of the video. So make sure to keep watching. Finally is tracking. This is super optional, but my students actually tracked every single thing. Who are they reaching out? What have they, like, what was the last time they followed up? Who said yes? What, like, maybe they're taking notes about like, okay, this person talked about this things about Meta, the interview process and so on and so forth. They also tracked the interview questions. Like if they bombed the interview, what was the interview that was asked? Maybe it's a recursion problem and they're like, okay, now I need to practice this. So again, it is a super optional, but it is something that you can do. After doing these 5 steps, 3 mainly required and 2 additional steps, mountain 1 is going to be crushed. Like you will be easily able to start seeing some immediate effect on getting interview calls. But remember, you still need to climb the mountain 2 and capture that flag for mountain 2, which is cracking the interview call. Now, don't worry. I'll tell you exactly what my students did step by step. How did they crack those interviews and what did they do to practice for cracking those interviews? Because trust me, cracking the interview is like complicated. It doesn't mean that you're not a good software engineer. It's just like practice. It's going to require, it's like giving GRE, like it's judging you on something where if you practice it really well, then you can score really good marks. So again, that's why you need to understand the strategies on how to crack this interview calls. Number 1, DSA, you cannot escape it. Now, if you are aiming for a big tech company, then please know that these companies focuses on DSA. Now, obviously there are like thousands of DSA questions and what should you really focus on? Based on my students' experiences, consistent patterns in interviewing, and there are 8 main categories that you should focus on in solving problems for in the category of DSA. You ready for the list? Array and strings, linked list, stack and queues, hash map or hash sets, trees and ties, graphs, recursion and dynamic programming, sorting and searching tricks. Focus most of your practice time on medium to difficulty questions. Now, obviously, I'm talking about lead coding over here. Medium to difficult question is what you can expect to come in your real interviews. if you're not at all into coding and if you're starting, then start from the easy, because starting from medium and difficulty is gonna ruin your entire mood and you're gonna be like, okay, I give up. I don't even wanna start. But remember, you don't need to solve 1,000 questions. 100 well-chosen questions which covers these patterns, you are good to go. Please know that this is not a 4-week bootcamp or 6-week bootcamp or like a 2-month course or something like that. Some of my students actually took 1 year. And in fact, the student who got into Meta, when they came to United States, they didn't know coding at all. So from first semester till the full year, they just practiced. It took them almost a year to get into the zone of lead coding and solving medium and difficulty. They started with easy and then they are now solving medium and difficulty. And another student who actually got into Walmart and Microsoft, they got it within 3 months. So everyone is different, but all I want to say is like, this is not some fastest track that you're gonna like apply and then you can get it. It is going to take practice, and hopefully you are early in the game that you can use this strategy to start practicing. There are a few resources that you should use to practice the above list that I mentioned. Number one is LeetCode. Obviously, there are 2,000 plus problems over there. There's also Discuss tab where you can see like what people are doing, and if you have a premium version, then you can also see other things which I'm gonna cover in a later part. But in LeetCode, you can do NeetCode and Blind 75, which is plenty for you to start. Now then there's a Geek for Geeks as well, that you can start there as well. HackerRank or InterviewBid. Again, these are some like good backup as well. I also love the book Cracking the Coding Interview. Couple hours doing this and couple hours doing referrals and building your profile, because again, both mountains are important. You can't do one or the other, right? Now let's go into next step. Again, this is a common question that gets asked in our community, is like, which language do we pick? Like Python, C++, Java, like doesn't matter. Pick the one that is most comfortable to you. Because again, in these interviews, they probably will only ask you to pseudocode it. They may ask you to pick your own language that you are comfortable with. It's more important that you are comfortable with that. And when you practice a problem or you mock interview it, or when you do whiteboard, when you're under stress, what language comes in really natural to you? If it's a Java, then go for Java. Now, another thing that my student told me, this was very important. Don't memorize the question, because I know, especially if you come from India, like we are so used to like memorizing things. Instead of like memorizing thousands of questions, you should train yourself to really understand the problem and the concepts, and like you probably have some recurring tricks. Again, this is something that the students said who got into Meta and Microsoft, that the more they started to doing, they figured out the technique, like the recurring patterns and techniques, and they could start spotting that. When a prompt mentioned like linked list, ask whether a slow and a fast pointer or a cycle detection patterns fits. When it mentions a graph, decide quickly between BFS and DFS. Once you start seeing these patterns, again, it's going to be practice, but once you start seeing these patterns, any new question is going to just feel like a mixture of something like this, which you already know. Now you just have to apply these concepts. So again, instead of memorizing it, start understanding the concept, and then practice is going to help you figure out recognizing the patterns in this. Okay, the most terrifying word I'm going to say is dynamic programming. I said it. Why do I say that? This probably is something that people get terrified, because this big tech company do focuses on this, and it is something that you should focus on as well. Okay, so give yourself permission to slow down here. These are some complicated, things that you're gonna learn. Learn the sub patterns over here, the knapsack, grid paths, or Fibonacci variations, things like that. Again, these are something that's gonna come in slowly. Take it easy when you are starting the dynamic programming, because you may start to feel like so overwhelmed and you wanna give up. This is what they told me. So take it easy, take a break, and then come back later. So that is the process that you need to continue to follow. Now, I do have a quick note that if you are applying to an early grad role position, you probably won't get questions about deep, large-scale system design questions, but you should be ready to talk about object-oriented design. Maybe they might ask you like design a parking lot, and how do you do that, right? It's a system design question. So have that fundamental knowledge as well. Focus on quality instead of quantity of lead code. Now I've already mentioned this. If you're a beginner, it's okay to start with easy, and generally in that case quantity is going to be good. But once you get really familiar, focus on those blind 75 that covers most of the problems, right? And focus on company specific questions. If you get lead code premium, you can go to Google, you can go to Amazon, Microsoft, Meta. All of them have like company specific problems. You can start solving them. After solving, you should also see the comments and the alternative solution that people have discussed in the discussion, like sections, to see if there are any other trade-offs that you should have considered, or there are any other solutions that you should have considered, etc. Now these companies and hiring manager and hiring teams really focuses on something called time and space. Obviously you know this as an engineer. For example, make it like a second nature for you, that when you finish a solution, you should say something like, oh, this runs in O(n) time and O(1) space. The hash mesh gives the instant lookups, but the cost extra money. This again helps managers understand that, oh, these engineers understand not just how code works, but also how much the code costs, the performance and the time and the complexity of it. Here's another thing that my student also said that you should be prepared for is in his one of the interview with Meta or Microsoft, I don't remember, but you will get like a 45-minute interview slot, right? And if you get a problem and if you have practiced so far everything that I've said, and you solve it in like, let's say 20 minutes or so, now the interviewer might have to fill up the time. Like they're like, okay, I didn't prepare for any other question. Can you solve this in a different time complexity or something like that? So be ready to have that second approach in your toolbox. Like, okay, if they ask something, then I know how to do that as well. Now, here's one of the rookie mistake that all the software engineers make, and I'm assuming you might be making this as well. Frustration point. There's a 30-minute rule that I would say, like they said that they applied to, is that when you start lead coding, you will easily get frustrated if you can't come to the solution, and then you will just scroll down and look at the solution, look at the hints, etc. But they said that give yourself like some time limit, 25 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, whatever that is. And once you give yourself this, like let it soak yourself into that problem. And once you do that, then look at the hints in the solution. But again, if you're stuck, maybe start with brute force version first, mark the question, then come back and then, solve it in a different pattern. And another thing that you want to start practicing as you start lead coding is live interviews, because again, lead code is slightly easier when you don't have this pressure of someone is watching you coding it and you have access to the computer. What if, and I know this because some of the big tech companies are going to make you open a Google Doc or a Word doc, and you have to write the code there or in the whiteboard, or some might be just like pseudocode. So practice for that. You also always want to ask clarifying questions about inputs and edge cases and assumptions and expected complexity before you start coding. Treat the whole session as a conversation rather than just a silent coding like drill that you have to do, because sometimes they just want to see your thought process. How are you thinking about this problem? And like, oh, am I going in the right direction? I'm thinking that I'm going to do BFS instead of this. And like, is that right? Maybe they'll say like, oh, maybe you should consider this. So final step before you capture that flag and capture the offer and Mountain 2 is done. Putting everything that you've learned into practice as well. What I mean by that. Now, this may be applicable more for startups and mid-sized companies, but even, big tech companies will be very impressed if you do this. So as you know that there are AI tools now writing codes, like literally building web application from the scratch. I've built multiple of them for myself. I mean, of course, maybe they are not production ready, or maybe they are, but not like that extensive, but they can do the basic work. So how do you stand out? Well, because what's going to happen is you will have to understand product's requirement, and then you have to solve that problem. So if you have the ability to understand like why, if I do this, how is customers going to react? How is this going to solve users problem? Is it going to solve like customer support's problem? Is this going to like, how does this help bring business revenue? Is this going to helpful or not helpful? Like owning this and like leading with that approach is going to like help you set apart from like so many people. How do you show this? Like this is good, like this is good information. You start building these applications. Maybe just look at in the front of your life and around your life and in your friend's life, there might be small problems. Maybe it's a syncing class schedules or syncing roommate schedules. You build an app for that. Maybe it's a split wise that you want to split the cost of like entire roommates and utilities and all of that. Maybe you build an app for that. Maybe it's a coordinating a road trip for like 5 friends which are in different states and you want to schedule like something like that. Maybe you build an app for that. Again, solving some life problems and putting it into an app and then deploying it and let people use it shows that you're not just another engineer. You're actually a problem solver. You will be able to understand company's problem and save money and maybe even potentially make more money. So there you have it. That is the exact roadmap that my students follow, who actually ended up getting offers from Meta, Tesla, Walmart, Microsoft, and any other big tech companies. If you're also interested in joining my job hunting accelerator program, where we do live sessions, where we bring industry people, we do resume reviews, and you want a community to do this, all of this together, link will be in the description. But I hope this was helpful. And if you have any further questions, please let me know in the comment section. I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, keep smiling and keep hustling. You gotta hustle every single day.